Croeso cynnes iawn I gyd I gynhadledd olaf project Ecostructure. A very warm welcome to everyone to the final conference for the Ecostructure project. And this is a hybrid conference, so I'd like to welcome all of you who have managed to get here in person despite pandemics and rail strikes and the Severn Bridge catching fire and all of the other disasters that have befallen us over the last few days. And I'd also like to welcome all of the people who are joining us online. And we have a lot of people joining us online. They're from all over the UK and Ireland. We have people from all over Europe. So I know we have people here from Denmark, Sweden and Belgium. So Borada to you, a very good morning. And we also have people here from Australia and Hong Kong. So a good evening to you. This is the final conference for the Ecostructure project. It's a 5-year project which involves researchers from Aberystwyth University who are leading the project, and also from Bangor and Swansea universities in Wales, and from University College Dublin and University College Cork in Ireland. And the theme of this project is eco-engineering and biosecurity in the coastal and marine environment. And the idea here is that climate change is going to inevitably result in more structures being built along our coasts and out in the offshore region, and it's therefore imperative to us to make sure that these artificial structures are going to be habitable to life. So that's the basic premise. It's something that people were working on before Ecostructure, though to a large extent on a very small scale. And the ERDF funding that we got for Ecostructure has enabled us to run a larger project and to take things forward to the next level. The project has been a very exciting thing to be involved with, because while we've been running the project, eco-engineering has gone from being somewhat of a fringe idea very much into the mainstream. There's now much more awareness 5 years later of eco-engineering as an important consideration when we're undertaking developments in the coastal and marine environments. And it's been very exciting to be part of that process of doing the research, of gathering the evidence, and of raising awareness of the potential benefits and the role that eco-engineering play. And in this conference, you're going to be hearing about the research we've been doing, but also about the practical applications and about the tools and resources that Ecostructure has developed, which we hope will be of use to practitioners in order to actually put the principles of eco-engineering into practice in the environment. So just a bit about the meeting etiquette. So we're going to be recording the conference. And so for this reason, we'd like anyone who isn't speaking to make sure that your microphone and camera off. We're going to have questions after each of the presentations, and what I would like is that if you're here in person and you have a question, please could you raise your hand. If you're online and you have a question, then please could you put that in the chat. And if you remember, if possible, just preface your question with by writing question or Q, so that Morag, who's next to me, knows that it's an actual question for one of our presenters to answer, and not just something you're putting in the chat. So feel free to use the chat for other purposes as well. But if you have a question, preface it with a question. And we're only going to have time for a couple of questions after each of the talks. But if you raise your hand, if you're in the room, or put your question in the chat, then we should be able to hopefully ask your question So the way the conference is going to be organised is that in this first session, after I've finished talking, we will have a welcome from Elizabeth Treasure, the Vice Chancellor of Aberystwyth University, and then we're going to have a guest address from Julia James, the Welsh Minister for Climate Change, which has been recorded. And finally, we're going to have a keynote speech from Dr. Louise Earth of Plymouth University, who unfortunately can't be here in person, but she's going to give her presentation online. And then we're going to go into the main part of the conference, where you're going to hear talks from various members of our research staff who are going to be presenting their work, but the outcomes of their work and the science behind it. And then that will run all the way to 15:50, in which there'll be a question and answer session. And then the final session of the conference will be online demonstrations of some of the tools and resources that the Ecostructure project has produced. So that's I think enough from me at the beginning. I'd now like to hand over to Elizabeth Treasure, the Vice Chancellor of Aberystwyth University. She's going to give you a welcome address now. So Elizabeth, if you could share your screen now and give your presentation.
Bore da bawb, croeso cynnes I chi. Liz, can I just have a thumbs up from you that I'm doing everything I'm meant to be doing, and I am, you can hear me, yeah? It's a huge pleasure to be with you this morning, and I am also very sorry not to be in Aberystwyth. When Joe asked me to do a welcome address, I was absolutely confident that I would be in Aberystwyth with you. And then the meeting that I thought I would be doing virtually suddenly went live, and as I'm chairing it, I had to get in the car and head off to Cardiff. So I'm very, very grateful for the invitation to speak, and it was most interesting to read the description of the conference, so that I could actually see exactly what work you've been doing over the last 5 years. And I found it incredibly interesting and incredibly important as we move forward into this very frightening time with climate change that is of such critical importance to everyone, and particularly those younger than me. Your work is very interesting in that it is talking about dealing with climate change and the impact of that. And as I was reflecting on it, of course, the most important fact that I think your project demonstrates above so many others is the effect of the sea, and how that crosses national boundaries in a way that many governments would rather it didn't. So I want to applaud you for the very careful working across and around the Irish Sea, with the range of institutions involved, and how you have looked on the impact of that water on the people who live around it. Why I think that's particularly important is I would encourage you to think about the next phase of your work, how you're going to take those links forward, what you are going to require from us as university leaders to enable you to do so, and what the effect might be on other communities living elsewhere on coastlines. The conference I'm at today is actually working with a delegation of Indian vice-chancellors to look at building links between our countries and theirs. Now, they are inland Indians in the main, and were absolutely delighted to spend time on the sea shore in Aberystwyth and Bangor earlier in the week. And I think it's, and of course, what we were talking about was the collaborations we can do around food security and climate change going forward with energy production. So for me, the key message for you this morning is, can you start thinking about where next? The blue economy is obviously critical to the world going forward, and particularly to our parts of Wales and to Ireland. So my encouragement is, don't let this be the last conference. Let this be the next step as to where you are going to go and where you are going to take things forward. Obviously, I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the loss of European funding in Britain and the problems we are currently facing politically with our inability at the moment to associate to Horizon. I want to assure you that as a group of university leaders, we continue to apply as much political pressure as we can. We continue to ensure that Welsh Government are as informed as our views are to Westminster Government as to what is required to make sure that the critical mass of European researchers in the United Kingdom, and from my perspective, particularly in Wales, the critical mass that you have established is not lost. Obviously, we can give no guarantees, but I wanted to give you that very clear message today, that we are working as hard as we can to ensure that there is follow-up funding for research and innovation that was previously funded by European money. That's why it's really important to me to see the results of a conference like this, that we can then use to make those arguments more forcibly where it matters. Be assured of our support, and I wish you the very best for what I can see is going to be an extremely interesting day's conference. Thank you for doing such interesting and innovative work. It is important and it has impact for the people who live around the borders of our most beautiful sea. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy an academic conference. I'm really jealous, actually, that I can't stay with you for very much longer. But pob enjoy the day and enjoy the idea of coming up with new ideas. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi am gwrando I fi.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's great to hear the note of support from the universities in enabling us to push forward with this research following the end. So the next item we have on our agenda is a guest address from Julia James, the Welsh Minister for Climate Change. So Julia was unfortunately unable to present live today, but she's recorded a message for us. So we're now going to play that message.
Bore da pawb, good morning everyone. I'm really delighted to speak to you today and would like to thank Ecostructure for inviting me to open their conference. As we look to invest more in our maritime structures, such as the regeneration of the ports and their surrounding areas, expand the marine and offshore energy sector, and mitigate the impact of climate change on coastal communities, we need to ensure that these actions do not come at a cost. We want to ensure the shared resource of the Irish Sea continues to be managed in a sustainable way, protecting it for future generations. Therefore, we must also look to protect our precious species and ecosystems, building more resilience to changes in our environment. The work the Ecostructure project has undertaken to look at nature-based solutions and eco-engineering to enhance the biodiversity and ecosystems of artificial coastal structures along the Welsh and Irish coasts forms an essential part of this. Today, you will hear more about the outstanding work Ecostructure has done over the past 5 years, which includes the identification of current impacts and future risks to biodiversity, biosecurity, and ecosystem function due to the replacement of natural shores with hard sea defences in the Irish Sea, and adding significantly to the evidence base supporting the potential of eco-engineering to mitigate some of those impacts when building in the coastal and marine environments is unavoidable. Also, the design of new types of eco-engineering interventions through the interdisciplinary collaborations between engineers, ecologists, and oceanographers on both sides of the Irish Sea, and the provision of tools and resources to make eco-engineering approaches more accessible to practitioners in places such as the Port of Milford Haven, the Mumble Sea Hive project, and the new proposed projects at both Porthcawl and in the Port of Dublin. as well as their current work looking at the potential economic benefits of eco-engineering for commercially viable species, such as fish and lobsters. This project aligns with our principles under the Environment Wales Act and the work of the Blue Recovery Initiative of the Wales Marine Action and Advisory Group, delivering meaningful improvements to well-being through an integrated approach, recognising the relationships between healthy coasts and seas and local economies. Ecostructure is funded through the €100 million Ireland-Wales Cooperation Programme, a programme which has a long-standing record of success, where organisations actively cooperate across boundaries to address the challenges we share, such as climate change and the nature emergency. By tackling shared interests and priorities, these projects are driving innovative action, whilst also producing wider benefits to coastal communities and businesses on both sides of the Irish Sea. Tackling the climate and nature emergencies are at the heart of the Welsh Government's priorities. However, we have a fundamental belief that we can tackle these challenges better through collaboration rather than unilateral action. Our ambition is to continue a cross-border strategic approach with our Irish counterparts, bringing together scientific expertise from both nations, sharing best practice and closely working with coastal industries to understand the effects of climate change, protect our shared ecosystem and inform blue growth. Welsh and Irish ministers are committed to exploring options to collaborate and work in partnership to ensure that we grow and prosper with the wealth of opportunities that the Wales-Ireland relationship has to offer. Options that were explored at the very successful Irish Sea Symposium on the 8th of June. As I have said, the Irish Sea is a shared resource and we must have a shared vision, a shared priority and a shared desire to manage it well for future generations. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Gobeithio bodach yn mwynhau gerddi a diwynod. Thank you very much. I hope you very much enjoy the rest of the day. Diolch.